The book titled The Spirit, the author, Pindai, and we're in studio talking about the book itself and the understanding of the interface between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Should we as Christians have a spiritual, because as I read your book, especially with your encounters, there's a great level of spiritual sensitivity that you have. Should that be our walk as all believers, where we're sensitive to everything, or almost, let me use the word everything, that happens, and try to understand that it's not just what we perceive it to be on a physical plane?
Okay. I believe we all can. I mean, there's some people, I mean, we've all heard about prophetic gifts and that sort of thing. So there's some people who are literally born with a prophetic gift. Mm-hmm. Okay. And from an early age, they can tap into the prophetic quite easily. I mean, one example is my second daughter. She when she was 2, we were driving in the car. I wanted to visit a friend of mine, and then she wasn't home. So we thought, okay, let's just go home. And on our way, she then says, we need to pray for that friend's brother. And I thought, okay, I've never met my friend's brother because he's in England, and she's a 2-year-old. Of course, she doesn't know him. Sure. She doesn't even know my friend has a brother. So I thought, oh, okay, and then I thought, you know what, out of the mouths of babes. So we prayed. The next day or the day after that, my friend calls me and says her brother was hijacked and hit over the head. He was in ICU, and it was, So it was actually quite an eye opener for me to say, okay, you know what, the Holy Spirit can speak through children, through toddlers, on issues that they know nothing about. Yeah. Or on the surface, they know nothing about. So there are people who have a prophetic gift, and then there are others who can request a prophetic gift. But all believers, I think, should be able to prophesy into each other's lives and be able to, to tap into, okay, Lord, I need to give an encouraging word, and what is God saying to me for this person,
Now, you deal with quite a lot of these are things that as Christians we'll have conversations about on the daily, sometimes whether it's just after church or just amongst other Christians as we fellowship. Quite a lot of questions that we'll speak about issues. I mean, you touched on in chapter 10, you touched on the issue of gluttony itself and the spiritual backing behind this. Yeah. And we take these things for granted. I mean,
that's true.
This is something you'll have what we call a craving every once in a while. It's like, okay, maybe this is a craving, but then you dealt with it, especially in this section I was reading, and I saw how you even saw in the Spirit, the manifestation of the Spirit behind what was bringing gluttony in your life, and how you dealt with it. And what I find very interesting as well in the book is that at the end of specific chapters, you have a section that's shut the door. Yeah. And is this an intention to help not just bring about the information, but the intention to help people know how to deal with the things that they're going through within the realm of the Spirit? Yes,
yeah. So the intention is, as you'll read in one of the early chapters, I think it's chapter 2, is that the plan is to give the information and raise awareness of the fact that there actually is a spiritual realm out there, both good and evil. Mm-hmm. Okay, and obviously the evil one is coming against us as children of God. Sure, And when I say children of God, I don't necessarily mean believers, but God created mankind. Yes. Okay, so we are all His children. We're just either, a prodigal son who's decided, I don't want anything to do with you, or we're those who are like the older brother who's at home, but, feeling resentful sometimes, and all of that. So what I believe this book should be doing is raising that awareness and saying there are different things like overeating. That's, we all say, oh, I love my food or whatever. And we say these things in jest or in passing, but actually there's a spiritual element behind it in some cases. And we find that people, I'm not saying every overweight person it's a result of gluttony, but I think with a lot of us, it is that, Sure. And you may not be, extremely obese, but that, when you're eating and you're not hungry, or when it's like a more than natural craving for food, even when you're not hungry, where you feel like you can't hold yourself back and you can't resist, eating more. That, I believe, is something that you need to pray into and ask the Lord, okay, why is this happening? Mm-hmm. Which is what happened with me, where I was seeking God and saying, okay, what is going on? Why is this happening? And it was years before I actually was given a visual of the spirit that is behind gluttony.
Yeah.
You know. And then with Shut the Door, I had it in my first draft that I sent out to friends and pastors and that sort of thing. I had it on one of the chapters. And one pastor friend from Prevailing Word Ministries, Pastor Francisca, she says, oh, I actually think you should have that either all of it at the end of the book, or you can have it after each chapter. And I thought, that's actually a really great idea.
Sure.
So she, so she's the one who's made that suggestion. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. So I did it for all the chapters.
I wish there was enough time for us to almost deal with like all the topics that you touch on here. These are so many questions, so many things that people will have. I mean, issues of bloodline dedications. You touch on, there's a part I remember reading where you speak about not everybody, intentionally goes and ties himself with issues of witchcraft and matters such as that. But there are also times where it's something that might have, if I may use the word, inherited to through the actions of family, so forth and so on and so forth. And you've dealt with these things in the book. I want to ask, here's a question. I didn't write it down because I didn't know how to really word it because it's so complicated. We know when we agree as believers and children of God that we are spirit.
Yes.
But if one had to deal with these matters as you've dealt with them in the book and try to have a conversation with someone, then you'd be deemed as overly spiritual. So how do you, because in the book, as reading it, it's very clear, it's very straightforward. You've kept it very simple, as you said, that you didn't try to make it too academic and so on and so forth. But how do you do that in the sense that it doesn't seem overly spiritual, but it seems actually as something I should know as a Christian and should be aware of?
So in terms of let's say you're trying to have a discussion with a friend or whatever, or someone at church, I think a lot of these things come out of relationship. Okay, so which is why I think the book is probably in the format that it is in, because I'm a very relational person.
Sure.
More of I'm not a big crowd person. I'm more of a one-on-one small
Okay.
groups.
I totally
that kind of
understand
person. So the book is more of I'm chatting with a friend and this has happened and this is how I dealt with it and that sort of thing. So I think if we as believers, those who are more inclined to the prophetic or more sensitive to the spiritual realm, instead of coming at someone with what you've done is wicked and coming with condemnation, I think it's important for us to come there in love. I mean, in I think it's one of the Corinthians, Paul the apostle says, if you do all of these things and you don't have love,
Sure.
if you try and whatever, he goes through all of these things that we can do if we're giving, if we're generous, but we don't have love.
Sure.
And it's the same with this. If you come at people without the love of God, basically coming out of you towards them, if you're not doing it in love, then it doesn't help. It just comes across as, you're saying that I'm demonic or I have a demon in me
Sure.
or whatever. And it just seems like you're bashing them over the head, as opposed to saying, you know what, I've found freedom and I want freedom for you.
Yes.
Yes. And this is how I found freedom.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to find out who is this book for and how do people get their hands on this book? You deal with a lot of things. I mean, questions that a lot of people are having right now, especially with the times that we live in. Demon activity is dealt with in this book. A lot of things are actually dealt with in this book. Question is, who specifically is the book for? And how do people get their hands on this book? We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. This is Rainbow FM 90.7, the community's favorite. We are with the author of the book, The Spirit, a collection of everyday prophetic encounters. Everyday prophetic encounters. This is actually very true. We're in studio with Pindai, and we are talking about the book itself. Who is this book intended for?
For anyone who has either delved into the spiritual realm unknowingly or knowingly and wants to find freedom.
Sure.
For believers, of course, who want to know more about the spiritual realm and either freedom for themselves or freedom for those around them, people who want to minister or work in deliverance. It's not very deep on deliverance, but it's more of a book that helps people to if I can use the term, self-deliver. So
Okay.
basically between you and the Holy Spirit, and saying,
Yes.
you know what, Lord, I want to be free of this,
Yes.
you know, and seeking God on how to do that. And God is so faithful, he will respond,
Mm-hmm.
whether through someone else or through something you've read or watched or whatever it is, or directly. So
That's
yeah,
so
so it's
true.
for anyone and everyone.
This
essentially.
one on the WhatsApp, I'm not sure where to start with. Actually, I'll ask both. The question I have here says, where can one get the whole little book? And the question that comes in on the WhatsApp Evening Saints, how much is the book going for?
Okay, so the book is 150 Rand.
Mm-hmm.
If, let's say, a group of people want to buy more than one copy, let's say 5 copies, we can bring the price down to 120 Rand.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And how do they get a hold of it?
Okay, so you can email orders at ihspublishing.co.za.
ihspublishing.co.za.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Time has actually left us. I wish we had more time to have there's like a million. I said 1,000,001. I think we went through one, so there's a million
Yeah.
left of the questions. But thank you, Pindai. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
so
in the
much
studio.
for inviting me here, and all the best to you.
All the best to you
Yeah.
and your book. Hopefully,
Thank you.
this is the book that you do want to read. A lot of people have a lot of questions, especially when you're a child of God in the times that we live in. This is something that you have to get your hands on. Gives you deeper understanding and also liberty. That's what it actually brought about.
Yes.
Freedom, liberty, and